Hey, what's going on? My name is Mark Quimby. I'm the Vice President of National Field Operations for Security Engineers. And in under 10 minutes, I'd like to take you just through a brief overview of what it's like to interface with our really affordable drone detection system. There's certainly lots of drone detection systems out there. Many of them use radar, some use remote ID. And for most businesses who don't want to invest in military grade radar, our system is a super affordable and super effective way to know what is in and around your airspace. Not only can we identify where and when a drone is above your property, but we know where the pilot is. And depending on where you are in the alert zone that can extend beyond your own property lines, we may be aware of a drone and a pilot before the drone ever gets above your property. And there's certainly a lot of potential legislation coming down the pipe for how we should handle drones. What you probably understand is you do not own your airspace. If a drone was flying above your house, above your property, if you were to go out there with a shotgun or a net and take it out of the sky, that's a pretty significant FAA federal law violation. It could get you promptly put into handcuffs. And so certainly there's some concern about that. There's whether it's corporate espionage, just invasions of privacy, or even things up to contraband deployment and terroristic activity. We will certainly see some laws change, but for now, the best thing you can do is understand that it's happening above your property, know where the pilot is, and then liaison with local law enforcement or your own security personnel to identify, is that pilot doing something nefarious? Now, there are FAA regulations based on the drone's weight, based on its height. There's certainly controlled airspace that you're not supposed to even fly in without specific and implicit permission from the FAA. And we'll get into that a little bit, but I just want to take you through this video and let you see what it's like to sit behind the desk, whether you're monitoring this yourself or we're monitoring it for you. Okay, so we're at the point in the process where you've gotten an email that said there was a drone alert in your predetermined zone. And so you can see here we had a drone detection alert. This is the name of the zone that I got the alert in, SE headquarters, Security Engineers headquarters. It attributes a unique event ID, so you can find it later if you wanted to. It gives me a UAS ID, which is specific to the drone. It does not tell me right here what it is, and we'll get into that in a second. It gives me GPS coordinates for the drone itself, where the pilot was, location status, altitude in meters, speed in meters per second, and the general heading whenever the detection came off. And so what I'll do is from this email, all I have to do is click on view drone intrusion on a map, and it's going to open up this view here. You can see it's loading my alert zones. I'm going to pick SEHQ, which is the only one I have, but it's also the one that was referenced in the email. And since it's been a few minutes, it's not under live anymore. It'll be under history, and you can see just at a cursory view, we've got plenty of events. I'm going to click on the one from the email, and we get this little view here. If I scroll in with my mouse, we can sort of see what this looks like from a drone detection setup. We've got the remote here, which is telling me that that's where the pilot was sitting, happens to be yours truly. And at whatever point in the process the drone was sort of identified in its heading, it kind of gives me the furthest point away from where I was sitting as the pilot that the drone went. And you can see clearly these green lines all over the place is where this system is detecting the flight path of the drone. And in fact, this is our building here, Security Engineers headquarters. I was sitting on the tailgate of a truck right over here. So this point is exactly where I was sitting, the tailgate extending over that little retaining wall. And you can't see it on the map because it's just a Google Earth overlay, but right here on top of our building is where our drone detection system is sitting. And so this is kind of telling us that I took off from here, Zoomed around kind of our parking lot. I went down the alley, and I went above the TJ Towers a couple of times. Went over here across the street and turned around over this parking lot and came back. And you can see the general flight path. And as you're hearing me describe this, you're also seeing on the screen the video recording of the drone itself. And you may not know Birmingham, Alabama, or this little area of Birmingham very well, but the video you're seeing as I'm talking is a perfect layout of exactly what this is describing happened. And so we're getting very good detail for where I was sitting as the pilot, where the drone was at its furthest point from my area according to the drone detection system, and then a fairly accurate outline of where I went. And you can see I kind of went over our building a couple of times, made some passes through the parking lot, came back over to where I was at, and once again in the video you can clearly see that is exactly what was happening. Now what's interesting is if I click this little drop down here, there's that UAS ID, it's got a pilot ID, and then the drone ID. Now if I was to take this UAS ID and copy it and go over to this FAA UAS Declaration of Compliance website, I could look this up by serial number. Control V, paste that in, submit, and let's see what pops up. Look at that, DJI Avata 2 with a unique FCC identifier, and that is exactly what I was flying, a DJI Avata 2. Now, Birmingham happens to be in a no-fly zone because of, or what they would control FAA, or call controlled airspace by the FAA. Now, and that's because of how far it is from the Birmingham International Airport. This is an area that you can seek permission from the FAA to fly through an app. And I did that. So this was a perfectly legal flight. I was underneath the ceiling of the controlled airspace limits, even with permission. So thankfully, I wasn't breaking any FAA laws, and I wasn't rolling with traffic, and I was only crossing people and cars, as a part of my flight path. So this was a legal flight, but it's in an area without specific permission that you cannot fly. And if I'm to zoom out just a little bit, you can see our detection area that I've drawn around kind of the area of Birmingham that I want to get an alert in. And if I just select some of these other events going back a few days, you'll see that it kind of groups them by letter. I think that's probably enough. I could click next maybe and continue to select some. I can only do 10 here. So I can zoom in, and we know A is me flying, but here's someone else flying at all these other locations. And these could be our clients, these could be critical infrastructures. Who knows if these people were supposed to be flying where they're flying. Here's a person sitting over here on the bridge at Richard Arrington flying up and down the railway. That happens to be illegal, even with permission, unless they had a very specific use case for the airline, or not the airlines, but the railroad. You shouldn't be doing that. That's considered flying over transportation because it's a railway, it's critical infrastructure. Shouldn't be doing that. We have somebody flying over and around Children's Hospital. Was that Children's Hospital? Who knows? Could just be somebody playing around with their drone, or heaven forbid something nefarious. Here we have a construction zone. It looks like, if this photo is accurate, I think it is still a construction zone, and we see somebody flying over that. So this gives you an idea of kind of how this information can be plotted out. I can go back and turn off some of these, and then I could go further and further back into history and look at some of these other events that the drone detection software has picked up. And once again, I could evaluate these, individually to see if this is something that was supposed to happen, if it was my property, or if I'm just, taking a look at the airspace of our clients, which is obviously, something that we're interested in doing for our customers. So that gives you a brief overview of what it looks like to actually interface with this system. Okay, so you've seen how the system works. It's very easy to use. It's pretty simple to cross-reference what type of drone is above your property. And that's important because there's other websites you can search. You really just Google, and you can take that specific drone and find out what its potential payload is, and that sort of thing. So if you are in an area where you're concerned about people dropping in contraband, or even if you're in an event type space and you're concerned about somebody dropping a pipe bomb, heaven forbid, understanding what these drones are above and around your property, and if they have a potential payload, what that is, kind of clues you into some of the range of potential use cases for that drone. So if you have any questions, obviously contact us at Security Engineers. We can take you through a more detailed overview for your specific use case and property, and we would love to talk about how we could use this as one of our many solutions to handle your specific security needs. Thanks so much for tuning in.